Hello and what's up guys, in this video, a well-known human rights lawyer, Effiong, is raising serious alarms, warning the federal government to stop playing politics with terrorism. Right from the start, he questions why people like Sheikh Gumi, who openly speaks for armed groups, are still being treated like respected voices, while innocent Nigerians continues to go gone almost daily. Effiong says Nigeria is not lacking laws, not lacking security agencies, and not lacking courts. The real problem, according to him, is political will, and he insists the government already knows the terrorists, their financiers, and even their coordinates. He also blasts the non-kinetic approach, saying it has only encouraged these groups, turning violence into a business, and he asks a tough question: how can the state claim to be fighting terror when terrorists are active on TikTok, boasting freely, while ordinary critics get tracked and arrested immediately? Effiong even suggests Nigeria is moving fast towards a failed state because the institutions meant to protect citizens are looking the other way. Guys, I'll let you watch this video for yourself so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Take a look guys, and remember to share your thoughts after watching.
Well, national security and the judiciary get our attention right now on the program. Effiong is a legal practitioner. He joins us right here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good morning. Thank you. Good to be with you.
So we've had two sides conversation. We've spoken with Sheikh Ahmed Gumi, who is, some people have described him as a sympathizer, where he says not an advocate for bandits, he's an advocate for Nigeria. We've also heard from the Honorable member of the Plateau State House of Assembly, former Speaker, who said, yes, he believes there is genocide, but also Muslims are being killed. I think we can all agree on that as well. The whole idea is for everybody to stop being killed. But I relayed all of this to lead to the question of how should we proceed to begin to have some level of sanity in the system? On one hand, people like Sheikh Gumi are saying combat kinetic may not really solve the problem in the long run. We may get a short-term solution, but in the long run will not solve the problem. But people like you were saying terrorists must go to court and be tried and sent to jail. How do we reconcile those parts?
Thank you. I think Sheikh Gumi I usually don't like elevating him so much, but he has been given some form of recognition by the government as the chief emissary of those who are inflicting terror on our country. He's not pretentious about the fact that he has been the most vociferous advocate of terrorists in Nigeria. And I say that without apology. He calls for dialogue. He calls for negotiation. He calls for pampering of murderers, killers, rapists, arsonists, people whose preoccupation is to decimate life, to destroy property, and to wreck communities. Now, I am very worried about the direction the country is going, about the way our institutions are treating this matter, the insecurity in the country, particularly in the northern part of the country. We have a country that is supposedly governed by laws. We have the Terrorism Prevention Act. We have the penal codes across the various states in the north. We have various penal legislations that have criminalized terror, criminalized murder, criminalized kidnapping, criminalized arson. We have agencies of government established by law to enforce these laws. Chief among them being the Nigeria Police Force. We have the State Security Service, which is supposed to be the domestic intelligence arm of the Nigerian security architecture. We have the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. If you go further, we even have our armed forces, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Navy, and the Nigerian Army. And we have a judicial system that is supposed to try, prosecute, and where proven, convict persons who are inflicting this terror on the country. Across the 36 states and the FCT, we have high courts, state high courts. In Abuja, the FCT high court. We have federal high courts with division spread across almost all the states in Nigeria. These courts have jurisdiction to try and prosecute terrorists. Guess what? We have a Federal Ministry of Justice headed by the Attorney General of the Federation. We liaison in almost all the states. At the state levels, we have ministries of justice in all the states, with prosecutors paid by government, both at the national and subnational level. So the issue is not absence of institutions. The problem is not inadequacy of prosecutorial capacity. It is not as if we do not have prosecutors in sufficient numbers to prosecute these terrorists. And I dare submit that the problem is not even that we do not have the manpower within the armed forces and the Nigerian security to stop these killings. My own assessment is that this terrorism has persisted, has festered, because we seem to be living in a country where either terrorists or terrorist sympathizers and financiers are the ones fighting terrorism. And that is why the terror has not ended. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, it looks as if the killings of our fellow countrymen and women have become such a lucrative venture. So I am laying this background to say that from where I stand, I refuse, and I'm willing to stake anything on this, I refuse to accept the premise that the entire components of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Army, with formations across the country, is so weak, is so incompetent, is so directionless, is so inefficient, is so understaffed, to be held to ransom. What we have seen, government after government, particularly the 8 years, the 8 disastrous years of the Buhari regime and the Tinubu dispensation, is that those who have the capacity, those in government, they do not appreciate the urgency of now. Because how do you explain the argument about non-kinetic strategy that the likes of Gumi and his co-travelers have been propagating? That, oh, the solution does not lie in bombing and killing them.
He says Southern Kaduna has produced that result.
How?
So that is his template.
What is the result that we have seen? What is the result? He should explain to us. Because I listened to the
Scale of attacks, number of killings since this governor came in, because he was able to negotiate.
What is the strategy of the government?
Peace deal
of the governor? We had a former governor of that state. I've not seen that they have come to challenge him, Rror, who declared on national, I'm not sure if it was your station, who just declared on national television a few days ago, accusing the governor of paying 1 billion to terrorists. I don't know whether that is true, but this is what the former governor is saying. So are they telling us?
It was on this platform. So I'm just wondering, perhaps if you can paint a picture of a failed state. And when you consider Nigeria, does it tick all of the boxes of what a representation of a failed state is?
Quite an interesting question. Has the Nigerian state failed? The question is, the state standing? Is the state efficient? What are the indices to come to a conclusion that the state has failed? One, and very vital, is where the state has lost the monopoly of violence. The capacity to deploy force as an instrument for ensuring social cohesion. The Nigerian state has lost that. The second is where institutions are not working. I just laid the foundation of all the institutions that exist under our laws to address this mayhem. These institutions have failed. So where is the capacity of the Nigerian state for anybody to pretend, if at a minimum we do not want to agree that the state has failed, we should be able to agree that the Nigerian state is failing, and is failing at an accelerated rate. Because today, you have a commander-in-chief that is not even commanding Boy Scouts. You have a commander-in-chief whose words, whose orders are almost meaningless.
Would that be fair assessment of his role?
It is fair.
The president is doing what he can do.
What is he doing? He's welcoming the campees. He's celebrating governors who are transiting from PDP, from Labour Party, governors and lawmakers to the APC. That is what excites him. I have not seen that passion by this president to stop the killings.
So,
first, he has not visited the victims.
Yeah, but some argue that he had to boycott some international trips, you know, for that security meeting held, I think, on Saturday. He had to deploy the Minister of Defense to Kebbi State and all of that. Yes, he has not visited, but the Vice President visited Kebbi.
He has not visited.
But the Vice President was
the Vice President, the Commander-in-Chief. And when the Vice President went to Kebbi, what have they achieved? What have they achieved? Yesterday, announcement was made that, yesterday or 2 days ago, that this same president has ordered that policemen will be withdrawn from all VIPs in Nigeria so that policemen can be redirected to fight outward insecurity. As I was on your way to the station, I cannot count the number of convoys that I've seen policemen in their numbers accompanying VIPs. You have a president whose words are meaningless. They are deceiving us. This President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has no interest in stopping these killings. That is my assessment. I will never, I tell you, I will never accept that the Nigerian government does not have the capacity to stop these things. Because how many are they? Members of Boko Haram, members of ISWAP, the so-called bandits who are actually terrorists. How many are there?
When you talk about the urgency of now and the ability of the state to come strong, what exactly are you saying? Because everybody seems to say wants something drastic to happen, but I don't think I've heard anybody say what that thing is. What is that thing you expect to happen?
You're not going to solve this problem. Well, history will vindicate the just, like I always say. But I don't see these killings. I don't see these endless, abominable atrocities being put to an end by the government going on its knees to bow before the terrorists.
The reason I'm asking that question, because you're a lawyer, and that's why we're bringing the legal angle. We haven't seen the much we can see in terms. Nnamdi Kanu was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment on the 7-count charge. And then I think, I haven't seen the CTC of, I've read the Nnamdi Kanu CTC, but the one of an ISWAP leader that was sentenced to 20 years, perhaps an ideological terrorist. I haven't seen the CTC, so I don't know which count gave him 20 years, because we know what the law says at the end of the day. Is there also a failure in prosecution successfully of terrorists to be able to deter them from being able to do what they do? Is that part of the failure?
Of course. Under Buhari, they told us they were going to publish names of sponsors of terror. If you are aware of this, you can fact-check me. Abubakar Malami, as Attorney General, said they had compiled a list of sponsors of terror. They never did. Tinubu has been president for 3 years going. He has not disclosed the name of a single financier of terrorism. I dare you to contradict me. That this government has not told Nigerians one person who has been found to be financing and supporting terrorism in Nigeria. You cannot kill a problem that you are not willing to diagnose. You cannot be accepting prescription from a doctor who is unwilling to diagnose you, who is unwilling to disclose to you what is responsible for the symptoms that you are experiencing. That is what is going on. You are not going to stop these killings when the government has failed to tell us how these terrorists are getting financed, the arms. Look at the heavy weaponry that they are using to fight, to kill our soldiers. Where are they getting the arms from? It is either it comes in from the sea, from the air, or from land borders.
The reason, my question actually is, what in the law can we do to strengthen national security? Because you're a lawyer, so you need to give us that solution.
It is not paucity of laws. I want to be understood. You know, I laid a foundation, intentionally so. Nigeria has avalanche, plethora of legislations. Nigeria has institutions to implement these laws. What is lacking is the political will. The political will. Look at what Saudi Arabia did with terrorists. I am telling you this morning that 3 years going, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration is unable to disclose to Nigerians a single person that is financing terrorism in our country. That is the beginning. The Ministry of Justice has not even come out plain to disclose to us the information at their disposal. Because if you are going to stop the problem, you must be willing to implement the law. In the case of Nnamdi Kanu, who has now been convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment, we had agents of the State Security Service going to give evidence against him, even though in camera, that is in secret. And then they said, oh, this is what he had done. Now he has been convicted. I hear he's in Sokoto Custodial Center. Some form of judicial process, defendants of which some people are subjected to debate. But I'm saying, how come that when it comes to the terrorists or not, We only hear few cases. And why is the government unwilling to arrest them? Are you saying that? I listened to Bayo Nanuga on the sister station, barely 24 hours ago, less than 24 hours ago, explaining how the kidnapped victims in Eruku, in Kwara State, were rescued. You know what he said? He said the military and the state security service were in contact with them, that they called them and asked them to release the victims. Are we stupid in Nigeria?
I don't understand.
That is, he's claiming, I just watched the clip before I came on here, that the Nigerian military and the SSS, I mean, the video is right online, I just watched it, called the terrorists and told them, release them, oh, let my people go. That if they did not do so, they would have known the repercussion. What does that tell you? It substantiates my position. That look, this government knows who the killers are. He said they know where they are, their coordinates. Are you saying that the SSS, that is so quick, that is so excited to locate people that are using accounts with not with their real identity to track them, pick them up for criticizing government, like the man that they accused of calling for a coup, they were able to track him, locate him. Yes, terrorists that are slaughtering people, slitting their throats, they have TikTok accounts. They are competing with us on TikTok.
Right. Yes, I mean,
and the SSS is not able to track them.
Yeah.
It's not able to. I reject this premise.
Yeah.
I completely reject this premise as false.
I saw one of those videos as well, early hours of this morning, where terrorists on TikTok was boasting. So, is there something faulty about the system of governments that we practice? Because you have said it's the political will. But basic knowledge about the systems of government is that we have three arms.
Yes.
The executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. But now it looks as if this system that we practice, the legislative and the judiciary, which you represent, you
Yes.
are under the executive. In fact, you are at the mercies of those in the other arm, which you're supposed to be at par with. And that's why we see perhaps some of us fall to these issues of governors buying houses or building houses for judges, buying cars for judges, because it looks like in the end,
yes,
they are all, you judges, or judges, as they say, eventually do not have a say. So is there something faulty as well about this system of government that we practice?
Before you indict judges for having a hand in the terrorism in Nigeria, the question is how many cases have even been taken to court? How many trials are going on? You see, I want us to have clarity of thought on this issue. Yes, the judiciary has a role to play. But the judiciary, the justice system is not a self-activating institution. Judges are not on their own going to prefer charges and issue summons on the government to bring the terrorists for trial. The charges have to be filed. And then the cases are assigned. The cases that are in court, the very few that they are willing, that they are even pretended or shown interest to take to court, trials are going on. Whether those trials are handled expeditiously not be a different thing. But I'm saying that today, if we are going to blame the judiciary, I don't think it's the bench. Maybe it's the Ministry of Justice. And don't forget that it is not only the federal government that can address this issue. Because let us also be sincere. At the state levels, murder is a state offense in Nigeria. Essentially. Kidnapping is also a state offense, except where the culprits are being tried under the Terrorism Prevention Act. How many terrorists in Kebbi State have the Kebbi State government shown interest to prosecute? What are they doing? What they are doing is that they are dining with them. We see officials of state government at the sub-national level holding meetings with these insurgents. It beats my imagination that in a country like the politician from Plateau said, in a country that General Uba was killed, you saw how they executed him. A general. What does that speak to the morale of the men on the battlefield? It is reported that they even took his phone and ridiculed him. Do you know the amount of intelligence that is lost by that singular act of breach to national security? Yes. This non-kinetic nonsense they are telling us, I don't believe is efficient. Because when you arrest them when they strike in Borno, kidnap school children, and you go and pay them, because what is the non-kinetic? They now realize that, look, why can't they go to Kwara? You go to Kwara to rescue them, pay them ransom. Why can't they go to Kaduna? It has become an endless cycle. And what is the agitation about?
All right.
If they are saying that, like, mischief makers like Gumi are suggesting or insinuating, that the problem is that the terrorists have not been catered for, they have been abandoned. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. In my village, in my community, There are people that cannot afford 3 square meal or even a square meal. Even in the Niger Delta that is so rich, there are communities that are not vulnerable. So the problem of underdevelopment is a national problem. So let us stop excusing what is clearly an act of criminality. The federal government has the capacity, if it truly wants to address this matter, to deploy the required, and when they say non-kinetic, dialogue. I ask you, when are we going to dialogue with those in IDP camps? Millions of Nigerians are displaced. Nobody is calling for dialogue with them. No form of resettlement.
Yeah.
Where are the victims in this conversation? Let the federal government stop playing politics with terrorism. You cannot be dining with killers and expect that things will be normal.
Anyway, so of course, there's no way you're going to talk about these issues without passion, because as long as lives are lost, it's painful. As we said, whether we're talking with whoever, for the average Nigerian,
yes,
we're just tired of people dying, and this killing has to stop. But I think we also agree that it won't just happen.
Yes.
The state has to make it happen, and there has to be that willingness. Most thank you so much.
In today's analysis, human rights lawyer Inibere Effiong delivers a stark and urgent warning to the federal government, insisting that Nigeria must stop politicizing the fight against terrorism. His position challenges both the strategy and the sincerity of government efforts in addressing the worsening insecurity across several regions of the country. Throughout the conversation, Effiong highlights the contradiction between Nigeria's vast security and legal structures and the persistent failure to bring terrorists and their sponsors to justice. He notes that the nation has multiple layers of statutory laws, security agencies, intelligence units, and courts empowered to prosecute terrorism. Yet, despite these extensive frameworks, attacks continue unabated. According to him, the issue is not a lack of laws or institutions, but a lack of political will, consistent enforcement, and coherent leadership. Effiong also raises concerns about the elevation of individuals such as Sheikh Gumi, who publicly advocates negotiation with armed groups. He argues that such recognition undermines national security and emboldens criminal networks. He further questioned why terrorists can openly operate, communicate, and even boast online, while the same security agencies swiftly track critics of government actions. Another significant point he stresses is the failure of authorities to publish the names of alleged terrorism financiers, despite repeated promises to do so. For Effiong, transparency in identifying sponsors is essential to dismantling the infrastructure of violence. He warns that without real accountability, the country risks sliding deeper towards state failure, where institutions lose effectiveness and the state loses its monopoly on the use of legitimate force. The discussion ultimately reflects a broader national concern. Nigerians across all backgrounds want the killings to stop. For this to happen, Effiong believes the government must move beyond rhetoric and demonstrate clear, decisive action rooted in justice, competence, and respect for the rule of law. As always, we invite you to share your thoughts on this issue. What steps do you believe are necessary for Nigeria to regain control of its security landscape? Let us know in the comment section. If you found this analysis informative, please subscribe to Nigeria Star News and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest updates. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.